Atlanta News First Plus starts now with the First Alert Weather Day.
First Alert meteorologist JD Disharoon here, and we're going to be talking about our First Alert Weather Day, not only for tonight, but also for tomorrow as well, with the potential for more showers and storms to lead off your weekend. And some of those, like today, could be on that strong to severe side. So it's something that we're going to keep an eye on as we make our way in really through the next 36 hours. Now, as we take a live look at the radar, I want to start off with this one cell over Atlanta right now. This is a severe thunderstorm warning. It does include downtown Atlanta. Midtown Atlanta, you are included, but I think the storm is staying really just to your south right now. So it's basically from the Grady Curve south almost all the way down to 285. Now, the biggest threat from this is going to be damaging winds up to 60 miles an hour and the potential for quarter-sized hail on the really kind of the darker pink areas. So if we kind of pull out and show you where the biggest hail threat is, it's going to be right here where we have this big black marker over the Browns Mill area, south of Lakewood Avenue, just to the west of Cornell, to the east of the connector where 75 and 85 split on the south side. And if we query this, it's going to tell us it's 2-inch hail. So keep in mind that this is a measurement of the hail in the atmosphere. It is going to melt a bit as it makes its way to the surface. So that's why it says 2 inches, and I'm telling you 1 inch at the surface. But anytime we see this black color on the radar, it's usually a good indication that at least nickel to quarter-sized hail is making it down to the surface. So again, this is a very potent storm. Anyone really between Lakewood Amphitheater and Thomasville and down towards Orchard Knob, if you have the opportunity and you're listening to me right now, you definitely want to have that car indoors or definitely covered at some point. Obviously, if it's hailing quarter-size hail, you're a little too late now. But folks in those general area definitely want to go ahead and keep that in mind. Now, the leading edge of this is where we have the potential to see some 60-mile-an-hour winds. So when I say leading edge, watch where I'm drawing this little white line here. It's basically wherever the green switches to red very, very quickly. When that happens, that's usually a radar indicator that we have some very strong winds in this system. And basically, that's anywhere from the East Lake Golf Club all the way down towards Constitution, towards the airport, and then pulling back up almost to Lakewood Amphitheater again. So, this is a very strong storm that's going to be rolling. I say rolling. It's actually not moving that much. And here's what I'll show you what I mean by that. Let's put it, let's loop it a little bit. Let's take a look at the last 45 minutes of this, and you're going to see it kind of builds up. And it just blossoms. So the movement itself is not from the storm actually moving. The movement is from the storm itself just expanding. Now notice, it kind of broke off into two cells. So we had that northern cell that rolled up into the North Druid Hills area. That is not severe at this time, but it is strong. So, for folks, basically, this is running right on top of Interstate 85 from the connector, the Brookwood interchange, all the way up to Spaghetti Junction and beyond up into Norcross and up into the Johns Creek area. So, again, this is a strong storm. It's not severe, but I wouldn't be surprised, especially in the, to the east of the Brookhaven area over towards, Plymouth Colony, where 85 and Buford Highway are, just from North Druid Hill Road all the way up towards Spaghetti Junction. This is where we could see some pea-sized hail. And then, again, on those outside edges from North Druid Hills to Oak Grove, all the way over to Pittsburgh and Hyde Park, maybe where we have some strong 30 to 45-mile-an-hour winds with that as well. The other thing is the lightning. There's a lot of, between these two cells, we have over 230 lightning strikes. These are cloud-to-ground lightning strikes. These are not even counting, the lightning between the clouds themselves. And the atmosphere over the past several days has been very, very primed to be electrical. So these storms have been very, very lightning intense, and we've seen a lot of lightning, even with the non-severe storms. And that's one of the things that we're continuing to see right now. Now, I do want to kind of move up to the north because we do have another severe thunderstorm in effect right now. This is going to be for northern portions of the Cherokee County area. It's also going to be for portions of the Jasper area and on over in towards Tate. So we're going to be looking over towards Pickens County. This is where we're going to be seeing that, very strong to severe weather. Again, the potential for some strong winds on the edges. The hail threat probably about nickel-sized with this from Jasper down to Tate along Highway 5 and then down 575 on the northern end of it where it actually comes to an end, where that 575 part terminates. So we're going to continue to watch that particular cell in addition to the one over Atlanta. And then zooming out, you can see we do have more storms. In fact, I'm going to pull that back over. It slid over a little too far. And then put it back into motion because I like to kind of show you that we're not really dealing with a lot of movement. I mean, what we're looking at is basically these storms just building up. There's not a lot of flow in the atmosphere. There's not a lot of movement. And a lot of the movement that you do see is actually caused by the storms building up, and the outflow boundaries is the term we use from, in meteorology speak, the outflow boundaries. Basically, that's when the storm starts to collapse. It pushes air and the air rushes out of the system. Well, that can kick up into rising air yet again, and that can trigger off more showers and storms. And that's exactly what's happening over Cobb County right now. So, let's take a look. You see these storms kind of starting to build up here, but notice it's kind of the outflow from this storm moving over, kicking it up, and then pushing that storm up towards the Kennesaw area. So in the atmosphere itself, these are all connected by the wind flow pattern and how, just everything is starting to move. And yep, that is a new warning. I want to go ahead and put this back because we were concerned about this particular area because it has been raining a lot. And we do now have a flash flood warning for Cherokee County, northern Fulton, Forsyth County, Hall County, and then extreme southern portions of Pickens County there. And this is going to be until 10 o'clock this evening. I don't think the flooding is going to last that long, but it just goes to show you we've had a lot of rain in this particular area. So I want to go ahead and show you some of these areas. This is just the past 3 hours have had over 2 inches of rain. Holly Springs area, you've had 3.5 inches of rain in just the past 3 hours. And it looks like probably even more south of the Cumming area. So we're going to be noticing that we're looking at 3.5 inches there, and then over towards Lake Lanier, almost 3.25 inch. So that's one of the reasons we have this flash flood warning that is now in effect for the northern metro. And it's because of the prodigious, extreme, basically, amounts of rain that have been falling over that area. The good news is we did have another flash flood warning up here for Fannin, Union, and Towns County. The rain has left that area, so the flooding that has been occurring should start to recede just a bit. But definitely a stormy afternoon across most of the metro, and we're going to continue to watch this build as we go throughout the afternoon and into the evening. Well, I say afternoon, into the evening. We're already in the evening and into the early overnight hours. So, this is definitely a very active situation across the area. In fact, we've seen over the past several days, the metro pretty much is just getting hammered. Yesterday we had the storms roll through. The day before we had the storms roll through in the evening hours. So we've just had a lot of rain and a lot of intense thunderstorms. And, it's kind of that summer variety, but at the same time, it's getting a little extra push from the volatility in the atmosphere and the fact that we have such a rich air mass on top of us. And that's why our rain chances are going to continue to stay elevated as we head through the next several days. And that's why tomorrow also a first alert weather day. So, take a look right now just across the view that we have on this camera. I'll zoom it in just a little bit. So we'll just get these storms right here. We're talking over almost 450 lightning strikes within the last 5 minutes. So that's what these lightning bolts kind of recognize here. It's the lightning in the last 5 minutes. 453, now 458 strikes. So you can tell by the fact that that lightning counter is going up that we do, in fact, have strengthening storm systems that are going to continue to push on through. So right now, take a look. I'm kind of surprised they haven't. Literally, as I'm saying it, I'm surprised they haven't pulled the trigger on a severe thunderstorm warning. They do. So, at least the National Weather Service and I are on the same page. And we're taking a look at now a severe thunderstorm warning for northern Fulton County. So this is going to be for Buckhead, almost towards Sandy Springs. Sandy Springs are just outside the warning. And for the northern portion of DeKalb County and then portions of Gwinnett County, the far western portion. So I'm talking Peachtree Corners down towards Norcross, basically that 85 corridor that we were just talking about, is that we're going to be doing, looking at a lot of intense lightning, a lot of heavy wind, and we're going to be looking at some very large hail possible. So it's something that we're going to have to do and continue to monitor because these storms really have just been popping up and they've really haven't been moving at all. So, and you wonder why I'm telling you this over and over again. It's because as I'm looking at the stream here, I can see we have a lot more people that have started to join on in. And so I want to kind of give them the same information that I've been telling you. So basically, we have 2 severe thunderstorm warnings that encompass almost the entire area inside the perimeter. The areas of the perimeter that are not included, this is the easier way to put it, is going to be the portions over into Cobb County and 75, almost down towards the Moores Mill area. Once you get south of that and then towards the city, you have that severe thunderstorm there. I also want to point out, we mentioned this storm isn't really going anywhere in terms of its movement, but it's most definitely still growing in terms of its footprint. So you kind of see it's blowing up, and we're starting to get some of this rain starting to push back out over the western side of the Atlanta area. So I'm talking over to the West End, over towards the Bankhead area, over towards Hamilton Holmes. That's not the severe part, thankfully, but it is starting to grow in size. But what's happening is, just looking at the structure of this, basically, I'm going to draw here, so give me a second. That's not the draw button. You have to forgive me. I'm trying to go through 4 different monitors right now. So all the air is coming up into the storm here. That's where it's being sucked up into the storm, and then it's getting blown out the backside. So that's why the backside is starting to expand a little bit. So you can imagine a storm is essentially an engine. Where the air is coming in is the intake. Where the air is coming out, that's the exhaust. And until those two come together, basically it starts to rain on top of its intake. This thing is going to keep continuing to build up. May not be as strong or as severe, but it's going to be able to maintain itself. So that's one of the things that we're going to continue to looking for. I think given the way this storm is developing, I think those in the warning area outside of 285, so this would be most of the Clayton County portion of this storm, Forest Park, Lake City, Morrow, and then over in towards the DeKalb area where it meets 285 and 20 over towards Gresham Park. Don't get me wrong, you're seeing a lot of lightning, but I think the storm itself is staying just outside of your area. So I don't think you're going to see too much in the way of anything other than those, lightning bolts in the distance and the rumble of thunder that you're going to just continuously hear. I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I want to get just this storm here. So we started off 2/5/1943. Okay, so this storm may be starting to weaken just a bit, which is good news because notice we don't have the pink on there anymore. Also notice the lightning strikes. I'm going to pause this so you can kind of go through this data with me. So as it's building up, look at the lightning strikes in the upper left. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, blah, blah, blah. Goes all the way up to 40, stays there, and then peaks up into the 60s. And this is just after the top of the hour when we started to stream with you. Now notice what's kind of happened with it. It's starting to go down. So now we're at 28. So even though the storm is getting bigger, it's not as intense. And we're watching the lightning count start to go down. And what that's telling us is that the storm is starting to lose its strength, even though it is getting bigger. Notice now Midtown Atlanta is included in the heaviest of the rain right now. As I look to my right, look out the window, because that's usually the best way to see is just what's going on where you are, is just look outside the window. Sometimes we forget that. And it's raining pretty hard here at the station. We're located here in the Midtown area to the west of the connector. And, we have the heavy rain, but we don't have a lot of lightning here. We don't have any hail. We had a little bit of gusty wind, but that's kind of moved on through. So, we're continuing to watch this particular cell grow in size, but not in strength. So that's some great news there. I want to focus back up here, though. Let's do the same thing. This is just this particular storm. We're at 97 lightning strikes right now. Let's go back. So, we start this off, not a lot. The 14 that you see are going to be with another storm that's, underneath our banner up there. But as this starts to grow, notice we get up to, 30, 50, 90, 100. There's the warning being issued. 100, 100, 100. Now it's 96. So, this one's still maintaining. Even though it went from like 104 to 96, I'm not going to call that weakening. It might just be, the cyclical nature of this. But we're continuing to watch this cell maintain its intensity. I want to use that button again to show you the hail threat is now squarely on top of Spaghetti Junction. And that's where we do have in the upper levels of the atmosphere, or I should say the upper levels of this storm is where we have the radar trying to ping 1.5 inches of hail. So, once that makes it to the surface, it's not going to be as big there. So, that's one of the things that we're kind of looking for. We're starting to get a few questions now online, so I'm going to try and answer them. For Unixmo, yes, we are expecting hail in these storms. They're asking folks are asking about Cobb County. Really kind of depends on where in Cobb County you are. Marietta, just to the south. So I'm talking like 120 and south. You're not really seeing a lot here. But if you live north of 120, I'm talking up towards Kennesaw, especially over towards Lake Altoona, the Ackworth area, you are getting absolutely hammered out there right now. We're going to continue to see that this storm is kind of building up in itself. It doesn't quite look severe at the moment, but it's close. This is definitely a strong storm. We're starting to see, and I'll draw it out for you, you're starting to see that delineation, that sharp curve between green and yellow. That's telling us the winds are starting to pick up. And then we're starting to see the pink build in as well, especially over the Ackworth area and over towards Altoona High School. What that's telling us is hail is starting to pick up into those areas as well. So, just south of the Ackworth area, that pink color looks like it's the 1.5. Yep, 1 inch hail there, 1 inch hail there, 1 inch there, 1 inch there. Good. So we're about quarter sized in the atmosphere. This is going to correlate to about P to dime sized hail at the surface. And for the person who is asking me about Marietta, I don't think this is going to be really moving your way. There it is. So apparently they think this has hit the criteria for a severe thunderstorm. To answer the folks about the Marietta one, I think this is going to stay off to the north of you. You are not included in this warning, so that's some great news for y'all. I'm going to stop the radar, though, so we can kind of dive a little bit into this particular warning because, take a look, all the reasons we were just talking about, I said I didn't think it was quite severe, but we do have that gradient. And I didn't think maybe just by looking at the radar we'd hit that 58 mile an hour criteria. National Weather Service says we have. They have a lot better tools to look at than I do. So that's one of the reasons that we do like to obviously go with what they're talking about. But you can see we already looked at the hail. Already the chance of some very large wind gusts, some very large hail possibly as well. And then we are getting reports, and you'll have to forgive me because I'm kind of scrolling through our feed with the National Weather Service. I'm trying to look for this particular storm here. And they're not saying it, so they're going by radar here, which is good news. That's what you want to go by. But the hail reports that we do have been over into the Doraville area, so that's going to be over here in this particular warning, where we've had numerous reports of pea-sized hail. And then we're also going to be seeing a lot of hail in the northern part of this earlier today up into the Holly Springs and into the Canton area. So that's one of the other things that we're kind of looking for. Paulding County has had reports of nickel-sized hail. And then we are getting reports maybe of some transformers that are kind of blown out. So for that one, we'll switch over here. Yeah, you can see the power outages are starting to increase with these storms right now. Fulton County now looking at 2,500 customers without power. So when we say customers, we mean addresses. So if you have a family of 4, you're one customer, but you're 4 people. So that's kind of why we say, because the number of people affected are going to be much higher than the number that's popping up here. But you can see for Scythe County, over 1,000 customers, 2,500 in Fulton, 1,500 in the Cherokee County area. Pickens is looking at 1,000 customers without power, at least 500. And you have to keep these numbers, and that's why we say at least, because a lot of times these numbers are lagging when the storm is moving on through. And you can see, though, it's not hard to see why. Everywhere you see a severe thunderstorm warning, you're starting to see some power outages. Not reporting any in Cobb right now, but that doesn't mean they're not there. It just means they're not being reported and getting on into our system. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. We have reports. So I'm looking through the thread here. They're saying it's raining so hard you can barely see in Gainesville. That tracks. It's a strong storm, not severe at the moment, but it does have the potential for some pea-sized hail and some gusty winds about 40 miles an hour, particularly on this northern edge that's over Lake Lanier right now. In fact, Lake Lanier really has been getting hammered over the past several days. They've got numerous severe thunderstorms that have been rolling on through. So that's kind of one of the things that's, been affecting them. They've had day after day of these severe thunderstorms that are that have been moving through. Kiwi says she's worried that there's going to be a tornado. We never say never, but the threat for tornadoes is very low with this particular system and this particular setup. It does not mean it won't happen. We did have the tornado in Upson County as we went through the nighttime hours 2 days ago, but these storms really aren't interacting in the same way, and they're really, the rotation in the atmosphere just isn't there. It is there for hail. We're getting huge updrafts with these storms. It is there for wind, but we're definitely starting to, see more of a severe threat and less of a tornado threat with this type of system. So again, we have severe thunderstorm warnings right now for the city of Atlanta. So this is going to be for Fulton, DeKalb. it's there for Clayton, but the storm's not moving your way. And that's going to be lasting until we get into 7:30. We do have the other warning you're going to see me slowly move up here. It's going to take you just a moment. So for northern DeKalb, portions of Fulton and Gwinnett, we do have the severe thunderstorm warning until 7:45. And then for folks over here in the Kennesaw area, up into the Ackworth area, so we're talking Cobb, we're talking Bartow, and we're talking Cherokee counties, this severe thunderstorm warning also in effect until we get into 7:45. So, we do have a lot of activity on the radar at the moment affecting the radar at this point in time. So you can hear me pause like that. It's because I'm trying to read the thread here. James Odell says, well, we had that sneaky tornado in Gainesville a few weeks ago, and he's absolutely right. That's why I say, even though the atmosphere is not conducive for tornadoes or we're not expecting them, I'm never going to tell you the threat is zero, because we do have those sneaky little spin-ups that do happen every once in a while. And that's also why we are here in the First Alert Weather Center, keeping an eye on these storms and doing an extended stream like this to kind of keep you up to date and aware of what's going on across the area. Flash flooding warning by the Holly Springs area. That's going to be going until 10 o'clock tonight. And again, a lot of heavy rain with these. Keep in mind, though, one of the reasons because we have the accumulation, so we can kind of look and see what's going on here. A lot of times, so I guarantee you that this area in Atlanta near Lakewood Amphitheater, and I want to go ahead and clear that warning thing off because I want to kind of point this out. It's saying they've had 1.5 inches of rain, and that's probably over the last hour, actually, not even the last 6 hours. So it's saying the last hour, probably about 2 inches of rain. That's probably a little on the higher side, and the radar is probably overestimating that a little bit. Don't get me wrong. You've had a lot of rain, but, it's probably more like 1.5, 1 3/4 instead of over 2, because a lot of times when we get large hail, and that's exactly what we had in this particular area, that hail will help to overestimate the radar computer, equation that kind of figures out exactly how much rain has fallen into that area. So we're going to continue to, look and try and filter out some of this, because that's one of the reasons that we take a look at this data and we kind of filter through it, and it takes us a while, and you hear me go, a little bit. We're on a live stream like this because we're kind of having to use our intuition and our, our knowledge of meteorology to kind of filter through some of this to kind of feed you the correct information. So that's why, and I'm now looking, this one looks like on the northern end of this. You'll hear me do that too. I'm like, Doug the dog in that movie. I'm just like squirrel. That's what we're looking at here. So yeah, we're starting to see an elevated hail threat here up into northern DeKalb County, extreme northern Fulton County, and northwestern Gwinnett County. So this is going to be over towards the eastern Dunwoody area, over Deerfield, Waterford, Fox Hollow, Chestnut Forest, Four Oaks. Those are the neighborhoods that I'm kind of looking at right now. And that's where we're seeing the hail start to kind of peak up a little bit, the hail signature, I should say. And also probably some very gusty winds in Dunwoody at the moment right now from this particular storm that's moving on in. So this one is not, remember earlier I had it on this view right here, and we were looking, it was like 96. It's still at 89 lightning strike. So even though it's gone down a little bit, and it's definitely down from that peak about 105 to 108, it's still a pretty robust storm that's continuing to push off and into this area. So, we're going to continue. Someone's asking, what direction are these moving? They're not. That's the problem. That's why we're having a lot of these flash flood warnings that are occurring as well. They're not really moving so much as they are expanding. So the central part of the storm is kind of staying still, but you'll notice these storms will start to fire up along a line. And for the Atlanta storms, why is my pencil not working? Here we go. For the Atlanta storms, it was kind of along this axis right here. So I'm going to squiggle it so you can kind of see it a little better. And actually, let me turn the lightning off. That'll help us a lot. Lightning is the story, but let's turn the lightning off for a little bit. So what they do is they build up. And they form along, like for this particular instance, this axis here. And it looks like the storms are pushing to the north. They're not so much pushing towards the north as the overall system is just expanding in that direction. That's the area that the storm is kind of being, the tops of the storms are blowing and building. So it's not that they're so much moving. They're just kind of expanding in that direction. And this particular line in Cobb County is doing the same thing. So let's go ahead and pause that, because you can notice it's almost right here is the line, and then it's pushing and expanding north into this direction. So that's why when I see these warnings come out, particularly that warning that was, yeah, come on now. See, I think this goes to show you everybody has computer problems, including us. So this kind of why when this warning came out and I was looking at it, I didn't really pay a lot of attention to this particular area here because it was on the back side of the system. It wasn't expanding that, into that direction. So that's one of the reasons that we were kind of looking in that particular, or we were not looking in that particular area. So, that's what we're kind of, thinking of with these particular kinds of storms. So I think this warning in Atlanta ends at 7:30. The other ones are 7:45. So we're going to continue to monitor this as we head throughout the rest of the evening. As we get new warnings, we are going to continue to update you and kind of show you what's going on. Let me zoom out here for just a moment. But again, we're going to keep an eye on these. It looks like we're going to see maybe a few more storms starting to pop up on the eastern side, over towards Covington, up into Monroe, maybe into northern Henry County. Patrick, Pete, and I are in studio right now. Jennifer Valdez is also with us, so we're going to keep an eye on the radar as we go throughout the next several hours, and we'll continue to monitor this and bring you an update. So for those of you who are looking for the Braves game, Jennifer Valdez is now telling me that there is a Braves rain delay. So that's unfortunate. So, not hard to see why. Let me go ahead and zoom in here. If you're familiar, there it is. It's already on in here. Showers in the area, but if you literally go just across the interstate, some very heavy rain, and more importantly, a lot of lightning in that area as well. So it doesn't take a lot. You just need to have lightning within a certain, time spot. And then we're going to continue to watch this as we go. So when it comes to the ballpark, sorry, I was talking with Patrick Pete off camera here. When it comes to the ballpark, why is there a rain delay when it's only like a sprinkle there? You got lightning within 2 miles of the stadium, and that's no good. You have to, lightning has to be a certain distance away, and then they have to wait until a certain amount of time after that lightning strike. So just even seeing lightning within 2 miles of the stadium, that's obviously for them, and I agree with that, enough to cause that rain delay there. So we're going to continue to keep that in mind. Patrick Pete is getting set up in the studio right now. He's going to be giving you an update on the forecast as we go in towards the 7:30 half hour. But the good news is, though, we are continuing to see this storm in Atlanta proper starting to weaken. I know we got a lot of red up here in northern Atlanta, especially the top end perimeter. But that being said, the hail threat is going down. I'm seeing a lot of red. I'm seeing a lot of heavy rain. I'm not seeing as much of a wind signature. A lot of times when these storms start to expand and they start to get larger, they're going to kind of start to weaken a little bit overall. And that's good news. Even though more folks are seeing the rain, it's not looking quite as severe as it was. This particular cell, though, still gives me pause, particularly over in towards the Kennesaw area and up in towards the Marietta area. We still have those little black spots that are indications of some very large hail. In fact, 2 inches up into the atmosphere. So this particular cell is not weakening. And I'm not saying that's 2-inch hail making it to the surface. I'm saying that's 2 inches that are in the atmosphere. It'll melt as it makes its way to the surface, but I would not be surprised if we saw reports of maybe some nickel to quarter-sized hail out of the system just to the north of the Marietta area. And notice that's almost on the edge here of that warning. So Marietta, we've been saying it's not really moving in your direction, but it looks like it may start to be expanding in your direction. You're kind of getting stuck in between these two clusters as they start to, move in between you. So I think for the most part, you may see a little bit of lightning, a lot of lightning actually, and some gusty winds, but I think the worst of it's going to stay north of you. I'm not saying you're not going to see anything because I'm looking at these two cells, the one from northern Fulton and the one from the outgrowth area starting to kind of merge over you. That's what's going to be giving you a, that thunder, that lightning, and that hail potential over your area. So it's definitely a mess out there. I'm going to take a break from just a moment. Yep, I'm going to take a break for just a moment. Thought I saw something new up there. And I'm going to allow Patrick Pete, who's over in the studio, to finish setting up, and he is going to take over the stream for you. So there you go, guys, and we'll be back with you in just a moment. All right, we're going to be routing you into the studio. Patrick Pete's taking over in about 60 seconds. Just stay with us, guys.
So JD, first rate meteorologist JD Dishron has been walking you through all of these storms. We're going to continue our coverage from the studio just because these thunderstorms continue to be an issue. Not only are we dealing with multiple severe thunderstorm warnings, but we're also dealing with flood potential as these storms if they're moving 5-10 miles per hour, most of them, and these rainfall rates in some of these storms are excessive. So let's dive into the epicenter of where we're seeing some of the most intense storms. As you all know, the Braves game this evening is now on pause. It's delayed as we're waiting for these storms to continue to fizzle out and move on out. Still expecting this delay to last for quite some time. You're going to see me reference this monitor here. We got a portable desk here that allows us to dive into all of the different metrics that we can look into to determine how strong storms are, what's the trajectory of those storms, and what's happening. And I want to zoom in, number one, into this storm that's south of Atlanta near East Point College Park. Heavy downpours. Once you start to see those purples trending towards the black, that lets you know, number one, you got some heavy downpours, but also the potential for there to be some sizable hail. And this is looking similar to what we were seeing yesterday in some of these storms that were moving through portions of the metro. Now, admittedly, radar is taking a measurement of what's at the top of the atmosphere. In this particular metric, it allows them to determine the shape and the volume of what is falling out of the sky. And we can see that right now what's falling out of the sky is not the shape of rain. It is in the shape of ice, something that is crystallized. So we know that there is some hail falling out of the sky. Radar estimates at the top of the atmosphere is putting some of these estimates near Cox Crossing, Blair Village at about 3 inches in diameter. Now, admittedly, step outside. You know it's warm, you know it's humid, it's soupy out there. That is going to melt as it falls to the ground, just like it was doing yesterday. I saw some pictures of some hail yesterday that was close to ping pong size, even though radar was estimating slightly larger. That's because it melted coming down. Once you get close to 3 inches, you're going to be bigger than that. You're talking about being in the vicinity of tennis ball size. Now, I don't expect there to be a lot of tennis ball size hail falling, but it is originating at the top of the atmosphere as tennis ball size and melting downward. What that tells us is that hail is going to make its way to the ground. If you're in any of these communities here, Plunkett Town, Cox Crossing, Mountain View, Maxwellton, this is going to be headed towards College Street and looks like Main Street, College Street, Main Street. That's moving into your neck of the woods. If you're driving along I-75 near 285 intersection, man, that area is where we're seeing some of this hail. So I expect if I go on Twitter or if you guys are, driving in this vicinity, I expect to get some imagery of at least some hail falling in this corridor of I-75 near Hammond Park, stretching southward towards, this is going to be to the east of Hapeville, but folks on the eastern side of town, you're going to be included in this because that's Hapeville Middle School there. So that's where we're seeing some of the greatest hail return. So I'm expecting, the National Weather Service just reissued this severe thunderstorm warning. This warning had expired. Now this warning is back until 8 o'clock for portions of DeKalb County, portions of Clayton County, and portions of Fulton County. This is going to be because of the hail. I actually am in conversations with the National Weather Service right now, and I can guarantee you that they're going to say that it's large hail, 60 miles per hour winds and large hail. So First Alert Radar indicating all of those things. I knew this warning was going to come down the pipeline, and there it is. I do want to track it out. It's about 7 miles south of Atlanta, but it's nearly stationary. So it's unfortunate, but I can't even track it out because it's moving so slow. It's moving at less than 1 mile per hour. Unfortunately, these folks that are underneath this thunderstorm, they're going to take a beating. We got 60 miles per hour winds embedded in this, and we're also dealing with large hail moving through Orchard Knob, Browns Mill, into Blair Village. These are a lot of communities, but folks that are out in Hapeville, near Hapeville Middle School, you're right on the cusp of this. It's just on the other side of I-75 where we're picking up the most intense part of this thunderstorm. Let's take it a little bit further north because we do have a severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect for portions of Buckhead, Fulton County, including Buckhead, into Brookhaven, moving into DeKalb County. Folks that are in Chamblee, stretching towards the north and east, and that is also going to include portions of West Gwinnett County until 7:45. So we're still about 10 minutes in with this storm. I will admit, just from the optics, there's a lot of rain, there's a lot of lightning, there's probably at least some decent wind, but this one isn't looking as impressive as the cell that's to the south. So we'll continue to monitor this storm, but it is not the big to do right now. I'm going to be watching this area here. This is going to be near Atlanta Country Club, portions of Marietta. This is going to be just to the east of Kennesaw High School, near Walton High School, because we're starting to see this thunderstorm produce a little bit more hail. That should be about 2 inches in diameter, if I'm not mistaken. That's going to be roughly chicken egg size in the sky, falling down, probably going to melt to about quarter size, maybe slightly lower than quarter, maybe silver dollar size, but something that we're going to continue to monitor as the National Weather Service will likely redraw this polygon specifically for this thunderstorm producing some large hail. We're also tracking a storm to the north and west of that in Kennesaw. This is going to include portions of Ackworth, Kennesaw, Woodstock. You guys are under this severe thunderstorm warning until about 7:45. Again, the hail core not as impressive there, but we are picking up on quarter-size hail near Kennesaw and to the points to the south. Although I think that if you're near Kennesaw Mountain High School, you got a better chance of picking up on quarter-size hail. Elsewhere, it's looking like it's going to be closer to pea-size, but it's a nuisance nonetheless. And then to the north of that, we're also dealing with a flash flood warning that's in effect for portions of Cherokee County. This is also going to include Forsyth County, stretching into Hall County. Hall County, you guys were under the gun last night for a flash flood warning. The grounds are saturated. We're picking up radar estimates of a lot of these areas already picking up 1 to 3 inches of rain. I can switch my modes here, and we'll go the last 3 hours. Yeah, you're going to definitely get some locations. Look at Cumming. I guarantee you that's going to be over 2 inches of rain near Cumming. Yeah, 4.5 inches of rain in the last 3 hours just to the south of Cumming. And we can zoom in a little bit more to pick up on some markers here. This is going to be near Northside Hospital. This is going to be near South Forsyth High School, points to the east near Margaritaville at Lake Lanier. That little stretch of area, we're talking about most locations picking upwards of 2 inches, but some as much as 3, and Northside Hospital near 3, and up to 4.5 inches along, looks like Highway 20 in that region. So definitely want to take it easy and take it slow, because those are the rainfall rates over the course of the last 3 hours. And we are still dealing with, at least on some level, some showers in the area. So some of these folks, especially south of South Forsyth High School, your totals are going to go up as these showers and storms are still in your vicinity, and they're just not moving a whole lot. So there's just a lot of energy out there, a lot of soupiness out there, and unfortunately we're seeing this manifest in the form of these thunderstorms taking off and gaining momentum. It's Friday night. I'll be quite frank with you guys. Normally, this is the time where I am eating my dinner. And unfortunately, the storms are interrupting. I can't leave out because the storms are out on top of the station. And not to mention, storms are all across the area. A lot of folks are getting ready to go out for dinner. If you're not going out for dinner, you're probably going to check out the Braves. Get this tie straight. I know that you guys are probably, the shorty tie, I just like it. It makes me feel good. But you guys are trying to get out and about for Friday night. No one wants to stay in on a Friday night. Unfortunately, these storms continue to be an issue. Remember earlier I said I expect the National Weather Service to redraw this polygon because I was picking up on some large hail? Well, they just redrew the polygon. And it's definitely going to be because of 60 miles per hour winds, but there's also for the potential for some hail to be up to quarter size and even slightly larger. Again, I like to reiterate that our radar, every radar, shoots out a beam, and it's not at the surface, it's at the upper level, so we can determine the size of something. So what I'm telling you is that these crystals, this hail, this ice that is falling out of the sky, starting off near hen egg size in some places, chicken egg size, and it is melting as it comes down. Sometimes it's melting a lot, sometimes it just kind of like comes down, and we saw some of that last night. The way hail forms is basically dependent on how strong the updraft is. If you've ever seen hail, especially if it was a nice size chunk of hail, you can look at it and it looks like a crystal, like a bunch of crystals that are kind of like forged together. And it's in essence because what happens is that the hail develops in the upper parts of the sky, inside of the cloud. It comes down and it is sent back up because of strong updrafts, because the thunderstorm is still growing. And it is going to melt as it comes down a little bit and then refreeze as it gets back up, because the higher you go, you start to get back into freezing or sub-freezing temperatures. It refreezes and then comes down and melts again and then refreezes. And that dance continues until the weight of the hail crystal is strong enough, large enough, heavy enough to overcome the updraft, right? So the more crystals you see on it, that lets you know that that was a very strong thunderstorm, because that updraft just kept sending that piece of ice back up. It was not heavy enough to bypass it. It was not heavy enough to bypass it. And then finally it comes down, right? So it's letting you know that these thunderstorms are very strong. For the most part, a lot of the cores of these storms have been quite small, where the strongest and most intense winds are. But what we are seeing is that we're getting some decent returns here, at least at the surface of some of these winds. We can query some of this. This is going to be south of Maxwellton, south of Blair Village. This is going to be south of Egan Park, Browns Mill. Near the Forest Park area, near Royal Drive, where 285 meets 75, we can query some of these winds. And I'll guarantee you we'll at least get some radar estimates upwards of, 50 miles per hour winds, 53 miles per hour winds. Don't mind the negative. The negative or positive is just in response to the direction the wind is blowing in reference to where the radar site is. It's still a wind, regardless of whether it's positive or negative. It's just positive is in one direction, negative is in another. But we got some decent wind in this area. We can go back to the hail core, and while the hail core has shrunk, it is still looking impressive. And I'm still looking at this stretch of I-75 over Plunkett Town. Looks like I see North Central Avenue, Trade Port Drive, Interloop Road, and then that's going to be what? North Street near Mountain View, Cox Crossing, Maxwellton is where we're seeing this highest return of hail. And we can query these. And this is going to be upwards of 3 inches. The black's going to be roughly 2 inches. And then once you get away from the core, you still see the potential to see hail, but it's going to be slightly smaller. But quarter size can do some serious damage, folks. So this is, a situation where, you can't really go outside and move your car right now because it's right on top of you. But folks, downwind near, let's see. Let's give some folks some advance notice. Let's talk about these communities. Remember, this is moving roughly a mile an hour. It's nearly stationary. But if you are near Heatherwood, Golden Meadows, near Charles R. Drew High School, Aspen Acres, Brooks Manor, Castle Cove, Castle Gate, Thornhedge. This thunderstorm is drifting in your general vicinity, and it's going to be there momentarily, and it's going to have some very intense rainfall embedded in it. And we can actually look at the rainfall rate, because I guarantee you it's going to be pretty interesting as these thunderstorms are rolling through, especially the ones that are nearly stationary, because if they're nearly stationary, that means they're not moving. And if they're not moving, that means that a lot of these areas are going to be able to get some significant rainfall here. Let's go back to near Browns Mill. We'll zoom out a little bit, try to get some bigger markers here. So this is going to be just to the east of East Point and Egan Park, north of Blair Village. These thunderstorms have the potential to put down upwards of 7 inches of rain an hour. Now, I don't expect that to happen because it is moving, but it's moving slowly. So some impressive rainfall totals, radar estimates 3, 4, 4.5 inches like we're seeing right now in portions of Hall County. That is something that's going to be possible in this area. So a big concern, obviously, the rain and the wind and the hail right now, but the potential for flooding is something that's back of mind, as I can see that this thunderstorm not moving and producing a whole lot of rainfall. If you know anybody that's traveling in this general area, it's just not going to be the move to really be out and about. If you don't have to go anywhere, just hold it tight, because the water can collect on the roads. You guys know how it is, especially if you're inside of this area that I circled and you know that there are streets that are flood prone. You'll just want to take a little bit easy. We got wind, we got rain, we got so much rain that it does not take much wind to knock trees down. Now, I don't expect there to be a whole lot of reports of power outages at this moment. It normally takes a little bit of time for us to get that. It looks like they just issued, was that a flood? They just issued a flash flood warning for all of those areas that we just talked about. So we are rightfully so elevating the conversation about the potential for flooding, because we are dealing with some serious rainfall rates with some very slow moving storms. I know it's Friday night, y'all. Don't shoot the messenger, all right? I know it's Friday night, but these storms are serious. You know, I know that a lot of times whenever we're having conversations about storms, if we're not talking tornado, everybody feels like they're fine. Yesterday, we had no tornado warnings. We just had severe thunderstorm warnings and a flash flood warning. But we saw multiple trees knocked down on power lines. It wasn't everywhere, but it was in some places. And if that's in your neighborhood, you're impacted, right? So the goal is to not be impacted as much, right? To limit your proneness to being impacted by these storms. And with all of this rain falling across this area, something that I'm very concerned about is flooding. Check out this shot. You can actually take that full screen for a minute. Truist Park. A lot of you guys know that it is a Braves on gray day. The Braves are not on gray right now. They are not, because these storms are rolling through. Lots of lightning, lots of rain. I mean, this is blinding rain right now falling out there near Truist Park. And you can see that every couple of minutes or two, you get some lightning flashes. And then our camera is elevated, but you're picking up on the wind as well. So 40 miles per hour winds embedded in this part of the storm per First Alert Meteorologist J.D. Disharoon. So this is just a very impressive cell moving through this area. This game is on a delay, and I expect the delay to be a while because these storms are moving so slow. There's really not going to be much recourse in a sense of kind of getting those storms out and getting people back out into the field and the players out in the field and, you know, getting the field ready. So it's going to be a bit of a mess, unfortunately, as we're tracking a lot of storms moving through this region. And there's storms all over the place. I do want to reset. I want to do a regular view of all of our viewership, right? Because we're having conversations about a certain area, but there are storms that are firing up elsewhere. We can take it from the top here and dive into this cell that is moving through portions of Gordon County. Folks in Calhoun, you're in a good space right now. I mean, it doesn't feel like it, I'll be clear. Like, there's a lot of storms outside. But think of this as just your run-of-the-mill storms. While there are risks with run-of-the-mill storms, there's not an elevated risk, right? You're just dealing with rain. It's lightning, so, like, don't go outside and be under trees and stuff like that, right? Don't go into an open field. And there's heavy downpours out there. So don't get on I-75 headed to Buc-ee's driving 75. Like, let's not do that because we got storms out there. But right now, you guys, outside of run-of-the-mill storms, you're good. Stretching all the way down to Daresville, you got nothing but just storms, right? You don't have any immediate risk. Once you get a little bit further south, you start to deal with the issues of flooding. And I have a feeling that we're going to see more flash flood warnings pop up over the next few days, right? And I'll tell you why. Because we've seen round of rain, round of storms, and these storms have been putting out 1, 2, 3, 4, nearly 5 inches of rain in some places per First Alert Radar's estimates of the last 3 hours in Hall County. That gets into the ground. Now the ground is saturated. Tomorrow you got another storm that comes, does another 1, 2 inches. It's saturated, it runs off a little bit. At some point, there's just no place for the water to go, so it starts to collect. Doesn't collect everywhere, but it starts to collect somewhere, the weak spot. So I expect to see more flood warnings as a lot of our area is reaching the point where the ability for the soil to absorb the water is starting to decrease because we're reaching saturation, right? So that's what we're seeing unfold across a large chunk of North Metro, including portions of Forsyth County, stretching into portions of Hall County, and that's also Cherokee County, all the way west towards Canton and Holly Springs, right? Let's go south because we got a lot of warnings as well. We have flash flood warnings essentially now for a large chunk of the metro because outside of this severe thunderstorm warning that we're tracking in portions of Fulton County stretching into Clayton County. Outside of this warning, everything else is a flood warning. Everything else is a flood warning, right? So let's dive into this because it's doing some things right now near College Park and Forest Park. We're starting to see those purple returns start to train to black. And that's letting us know that we got a hefty storm now. Remember, we've been telling folks that it's been inching closer. It's walking. Like literally you could probably outwalk this storm because it's going roughly 1 mile an hour. The average person can walk a mile in roughly 18 to 21 minutes. So in theory, this is moving so slow that some folks everybody could easily outwalk this thing. It's just crawling. So unfortunately, where our axis of heaviest hail has not shifted much. It's still near the intersection of I-75 and 285 near Interloop Road. Everywhere that you see that white, that's where we're probably going to get some of the biggest hail reports. Now, I'm going to reiterate because I'm going to say it over and over and over because I want to make sure it's clear. Radar is estimating roughly 3 inches in diameter hail. That's going to be tennis ball size. It's hot. It's humid. That's going to melt as it falls down. Remember how I was explaining a few minutes ago how hail develops? Just coming down the updraft and not making it out, it melts because it starts to fall into above freezing temperatures, right? it still has a long way to go to get to the ground. So you're going to get plenty of melting. So I do not expect to see tennis ball size hail. But what I do expect to see is upwards of quarter size and probably close to ping pong size, at least as this storm continues to move to the south. And we got a new radar scan, and it's starting to gradually shift. Looks like the National Weather Service has extended this severe thunderstorm warning through the rest of Fulton County, through the rest of Clayton County, into portions of Fayette County. And folks in Union City, you are now included in this storm. Let's see if it's moving any differently. Hartsville, Jackson, I don't think anybody or their mamas or daddies are surprised. They're on a ground stop because of these storms. And I actually have some friends that are trying to fly out. So I already kind of knew that already. Here's a look at Hartsville, Jackson. Let's take that full, give the folks the full Monty. A lot of lightning out there, heavy downpours. You can see that we got planes on the tarmac, probably folks inside of those planes, and they're probably not happy about it. Because they're going to be there for a while. These storms are moving 10 miles per hour. All that wind has to get out of the way. Obviously, they can take off with rain, but it's the wind that's the issue. We got to get that out of the way so that these folks can get on their way. If you have a flight leaving Atlanta at 9 o'clock, it's probably going to be a little delayed. Now, I'm not telling you to leave your house at 8:30. I'm just telling you that you'll probably have a delay. So if you need to grab a quick bite on the way, it's probably okay to stop and get a quick sandwich. But very aggressive storms in the area of Hartsville, Jackson. We're also picking up on at least some hail in that area. You can see that lightning show, the same lightning that you see right now on First Alert radar. You can see that real time, what it looks like for a person that's near where we're looking right now. And every couple of minutes, every 45 seconds to a minute, we're getting a new lightning strike in that area. And unfortunately, we're going to be dealing with this for a while, so some strong storms. I did just get an update on the speed of this storm, and I do want to let everyone know that we're starting to finally see it move a little bit. Of note, it's starting to move in a slightly different direction. It was drifting south. Now it's more of a southwest tilt, and it's moving at about 10 miles per hour. So I want to give some folks some lead time as this continues to head towards folks in Riverdale, Union City, right? So the arrival time in Riverdale is 8:06. Right now it is 7:53. Sorry, military time, 1953. 7:53. So that's roughly 20 minutes away. And then we'll see this arrive in Union City at 8:14. We can also do something kind of cool. We can actually switch the size of the population center so that we can give some of these folks in some smaller communities a little bit of lead time. Brandy Chase, Lime Tree, Oak, Red Oak, it's on top of you at this moment, all right? If you're out in Park Place South, 7:55, you got about a minute. Normandy, 7:56. Arriving at Williamsburg Park, 7:58. Chico Manor, 7:59. Old National East, just before 8 o'clock, and it'll push into Heatherwood at 8 o'clock. We wanted to give some smaller communities a little bit of lead time on this storm as well. Once again, the main hazard with this storm is 60 miles per hour winds. But we're also seeing quarter-size hail embedded in this, and the potential for it to be slightly larger. I don't expect it to be slightly larger in a lot of places, but I will not be surprised if I see a report picture on Twitter of some ping-pong-size hail. The winds have been a little bit aggressive in this storm as well. We're continuing to see that. If I were looking for the winds pop in and out, they pop in and out. But winds have been 50, 60 miles per hour embedded in this storm, and that will continue to be the case. Elsewhere, we do have some storms to the east. Henry County, I know you guys have been kind of, anytime anything happens, it happens in Henry County. We have some storms right now in Henry County. This is going to be near Miners Creek. Actually, that's not Henry County. That's technically DeKalb, but stretching into Henry County towards Fairview Manor, Hidden Valley, Richardson, which is just to the east. Moving into Stockbridge. Folks that are at Stockbridge High School, although it's 7 o'clock at night in the summer, nobody should be there. But if you live nearby in that area, you got some rain that's getting a little bit heavier there. But this storm is not as intense in this part of the area. Now, that does not mean you let your guard down, because these thunderstorms can pulse up. They can get a little bit aggressive. They can get annoying, and they can produce some heavy wind and some hail at any moment's notice. It's humid. There's cape around. There's enough energy for these thunderstorms to take off. Continue to monitor storms to the east of the metro. Folks that are in Newborn, you got a nice little thunderstorm that's popped up there, producing some rain and some lightning. We're not even going to mention these showers out towards Greensboro and Lake Oconee, because it's just light drizzle. Out in Walton County, in Monroe, you got a nice little thunderstorm that's starting to push into your area, stretching all the way north towards Bethlehem. So some good storms, and folks in Winder and Carl also getting in on that storm activity. Let's go East Metro, Snellville, Lilburn, Stone Mountain. All of these areas outside of our warning zone. We got a little cluster of thunderstorms that's kind of like hovering in this area. We'll have to watch the rain totals with it, but as far as the winds have just not made it to severe limits at the moment, and we don't expect it to. I think I got a producer in the field. Can we get the station camera or the Atlantic camera? I want to see what's going on there just so that I can get a view. Sweet, thank you so much. Director's working on that for me. Elsewhere, guys, the story is just this mess. These warnings, these flood warnings. Let's dive into Cobb County, right? And see what some of these accumulations are. And just let me know whenever you have it, big dog. And we're picking up on some accumulations right now that are probably upwards of 2 inches in some places. Yeah, Kennesaw, Marietta. Oh, Marietta, not so much. We'll let that ride. So Kennesaw's picking up over 2 inches of rain. Other locations, not quite so much yet. But the concern is that rain is falling right now. Atlantic, let's take that full. I see some lightning out in the background. Nice little lightning flash. Every time I see this shot, especially when there's storms around, it just reminds me of Gotham City. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the Batman fan in me. But ominous looking clouds out there, and you can see that thunderstorm out in the distance. If you can look hard enough on the left side of your screen, I think it is. Nope, actually, it's going to be the right side. The right side of your screen, if you look hard enough at the right side of your screen, you see how it looks a little bit foggy over there? That's actually rain falling. And then on the left side, if you look at the building that's in the middle as kind of like the dividing line, you can see a little bit more clarity here. You can kind of see the sun through the clouds. It's not really sunny, but you can see it. On the other side of that is where you got the rain and you got this thunderstorm. And I saw a lightning strike over there a few minutes ago. Very ominous clouds. We're hearing some of the thunder and lightning here at the station. And we're continuing to monitor these storms. So model set, refresh, and go back out to our view of our entire viewing area. And just to give you guys a little bit of insight to our first alert weather day process. First alert weather day means that you're going to be impacted at some point during your day. Not all day, unless we tell you that. It may be afternoon, evening, like we've been saying, quite frankly, for the last few days, and for tomorrow as well. But even if it's just for an hour or two, you got some heavy downpours, some lightning, some storms. We don't want you to cancel your plans because we're definitely not going to cancel ours this weekend, to be clear. But we want you to be weather ready. Be ready to move and not become a victim of anything that's dangerous. I don't know if you guys saw the story. We actually ran it a couple days ago, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was at least 15, but I think some reports were saying 18 folks out in, I think it was South Carolina. Out in South Carolina, was just out on the beach, and they were all shocked. They were all essentially some sort of shock from lightning. Now, at last report, I think a lot of them were taken to the hospital, but there were no deaths. Those folks were really, really lucky. Really, really lucky. I didn't get more details on like where they were, exactly how they were electrocuted, and to what extent their injuries are. But I know that no one lost their life, and that's a miracle. It's amazing. But our whole goal with the First Alert Weather Day is we don't want that to happen to you. If we tell you it's the First Alert Weather Day, there is something in the day, whether it's 30 minutes or an hour, there's some part of the day that there is something that could be an issue. It could sometimes be just morning rain. It could be foggy morning. It could be foggy morning. I moved here from Maryland, but when I lived in Memphis, there were a lot of foggy mornings. And I distinctly remember being there one morning, filling in for our morning bet, where we had a dense fog advisory. And unfortunately, there was a mother taking her kid to school, ran off the road, fog. The kid lived, the mother did not. That was a painful story. Like in the news, like there's a lot of painful stories that we all hear, right? And even whenever they're breaking, it's kind of a lot for us. And if you were actually in the studio whenever a lot of those stories were told, there's a lot of deep breathing, there's a lot of sighing, there's kind of like a lot of like kind of pepping each other up to get past the emotions that we're feeling so that it doesn't come across on TV, right? But that story just sticks with me. So now anytime that there's fog and we're talking about potential for fog in the morning, we'll first alert for fog just because we want you to be aware that it's there. And we want you to slow down. We want you to use your low beams. We try to tell you how to deal with whatever it is. Now, whenever it's a bigger issue and you're going to be impacted, then our language goes up. We start to get more commanding in a sense of like, you need to do this. Otherwise, it's you should. You have to listen, it's going to be 30 degrees Thursday. You should wear a jacket. If you don't want to wear a jacket, that's your business. That's not a forecast. That's an example, just to be clear. So that's what we do with our First Alert Weather Day brand. It's to let you know whatever that part of the day is, whether it's 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, all day, whatever that is, we want you to know that there's a reason for you to at least be dialed in. And on those days that you shouldn't be dialed in, don't be dialed in, because we're dialed in because that's what we love to do. But we'll also tell you, like, yeah, it's a chill day. It's a vibe. This is a rooftop vibe. This is a night for you to be at a patio. This is your wind down Wednesday in the backyard on the porch. That's not tonight. We got storms that are moving through. I do want to dive back into the severe thunderstorm warning. Right now we have one active severe thunderstorm warning, right? And it is moving into Forest Park, set to expire at 8:15. Folks in Forest Park are included, Lake City, Morrow, Jonesboro, Riverdale, Union City. You are included in this. I guarantee you the hail has come down a little bit. It's shrunk. Still dealing with some elevated hail potential there, but the hail core itself has shrunk. The area that is being impacted by hail is not as large as it was earlier. Once again, just to speak to the speed at which it's moving, it's still near Maxwell Town, Forest Hills and Mobile Home Park, that area, moving into the Woodland Hills Mobile Home Park region. Lees Mill Road, starting to cross over Lees Mill Road near the intersection of I-75. Folks that are downwind, Flat Shoals Road near the intersection of I-75. This is going to be included. This is going to include your area. Rock Hill Drive near the intersection of West Lee Mill Road. So we got that hill core moving through that region. We've also seen the winds pulse at times. Still dealing with some decent winds here, up to 60 miles per hour in some places. A lot of areas just getting roughly 40 to 50. But once again, the potential for 60 is definitely there in this thunderstorm. And as these storms pulse, and they're moving to the southwest at about 10 miles per hour. So I want to give you a redraw. We'll have to watch this little segment of the storm here because it is starting to kind of like run into it. And anytime that storms run into each other, you just kind of get a little, antennas have to go up, right? But let's track this out at about 10 miles per hour to the southwest. We'll track this whole line, although the northern part of the line will not be as aggressive. So still looking at roughly 8:13 arrival time in Riverdale, although some of the light showers are starting to trickle into the north part of town. The heavier downpours and the strongest winds are just about 10 minutes away. So outside of the light rain moving into Riverdale, the heavier stuff is still about 10 minutes away. Union City, you're still in line for this at around 8:14. And if this holds together, although the Union City, it's looking a little sketchy for you, like as far as like the rain's not as heavy. The core of the storm is over here where we're seeing the purples, and that's all drifting in that direction. So while the far eastern part of Union City may see some of the stronger stuff, I think it's these folks out over here that are going to get some of the strongest wind and the heavier downpours, and also where that hill core is gradually starting to drift into. Folks in Fairburn, you're next up at around 8:30. Scattered showers and storms east of Murrow along you guys are going to forgive me, that's going to be I-75, pushing towards Stockbridge. And then we're dealing with all of this stuff that's out here to the east. Folks in Winder, Bethlehem, still no warnings on these storms. We're not getting a whole lot out of those as far as hail. Maybe some pea-size hail, but remember, that's pea-size hail up there. It's probably falling down smaller than pea-size at best. So I'm not expecting a major production out of that. Out in Marietta, while we have a lot of lightning, a lot of storms, the hail core is just not there. And the winds, they're there, 30, 40, maybe even isolated 45. But the winds are just not as strong as they are in the southern leg of the storm. Can we get another shot of Truist Park? Because I want to take a look and see what it looks like. I know it's pretty heavy. Thank you so much. And I have a dope director who's actually back there just manning the stage, solo dolo, working with me. What's that, boss? Yeah, you do a great job. He says he tries. He does a great job. But he's getting me everything I need here. And we can take that full screen just for a second because I just want to take a closer look. Yeah, lightning strike is still flashing in the background. All you Braves fans, we're still holding off. We're still holding off. But you know what? This delay may be the preparation that we need to get a W tonight. So as long as everybody stays safe and there's no loss of life or property, you know, we're good. Maybe this will help us out, eke out a win. But those storms right now, at Truist Park, it's lightning. The downpours are coming down here, and it's really just kind of relentless. And we've been seeing this for a while now because these clusters of storms, especially some of those to the north, they're nearly stationary. And that's what's concerning. That's why the National Weather Service has already placed parts of our area in a flash flood warning as these storms are continuing to just dump crazy amount of rain in some of these areas, and they're not moving. So I want to, or they're moving very slowly. So I want to query some of these rainfall rates, but I want to make sure I give you the caveat. If a thunderstorm just stays in this spot, this part of the storm stays in this particular spot for an entire hour and does not move an inch, the area in this cone will get whatever number I query. The thunderstorms are moving a little bit. They're not moving a lot, but I don't expect these areas to get that total, but they won't be far off because it's going to be a while before these storms are gone, right? So let's query some of these rainfall rates. Near Marietta, we're picking up 1.25 inches an hour. Near Smyrna, 2.5 inches an hour. Near Norcross, we're picking up nearly 4 inches an hour. I think this part of the storm is moving a little bit more. Tucker, not so much, which is nice. Out in Buckhead, looking pretty good right now. To the south, let's go. Actually, let's go north. Let's go into some of these communities. Remember, I mentioned Cumming earlier. They're picking up roughly, no, not bad, 1/10 of an inch an hour. They don't need no more. They've already picked up 2, 3, even 4.5 in some places, so they're good. Holly Springs, just over 1 inch an hour. And let's go south, where we're dealing with some of the stronger storms. We're going to see some higher rainfall rates. In the city of Atlanta, depending on where you are, obviously some places are bone dry. You go south and east, closer to downtown, you're picking up about 1/2 inch an hour. Gresham Park, over 2.25 inches an hour rainfall rates there. East Point, just shy of 1.75 inch rainfall per hour. And then this Big Daddy down towards Forest Park is where we're seeing it. And it's going to be Cox Crossing, Max Welton, Forest Park. It's going to be a higher number. I think it needs to be adjusted down a little bit for some reasons, but 6.5 inches an hour is what it's putting out. This rain is crazy inside of these thunderstorms. So do not be surprised if you're in this area where the severe thunderstorm warning is right now, if you see the flash flood warning extended, because it's definitely going to be possible. I'm going to check in with our National Weather Service partners, guys. A lot of conversation about some of these storm reports. Let's see. It's crazy. There's actually a meteorologist from Memphis that I know who is stuck on a plane at the airport, and he's actually reporting some pea-sized hail a few moments ago. So that's definitely something for sure. I was just showing you some of these rainfall rates of nearly 2.5 inches an hour in East Cobb. That was radar. I think radar was estimating 2.25. Just got it confirmed that it's 2.5. So First Alert Radar is doing its thing. It's giving us the best it can do from the upper elevations to let us know about what's happening. We've already seen several reports of storm damage come out of some counties to the north of us. Not so much inside of our area, but we are getting some reports that lightning hit a transformer on Cobb Parkway before Cedar Crest Road. And there's some flooding on Cedar Crest Road, just off of Cobb Parkway in front of Publix. And it's flooding pretty bad, according to some of our sources. So you'll definitely want to take it easy, guys. I know we say this all the time, but y'all don't listen. So we're going to say it again. Turn around, don't drive. And the reason why I say that is because there have been many times where I've seen some of our Mets meteorologists, we call ourselves Mets, because it's easier than saying meteorologists. Some of our meteorologists, or even some of our reporters, will be out in the field doing a live shot where there's like some flooding. And they're like, you guys should not drive through this. And then in comes some dude going 60 miles per hour on a 45 miles per hour road nonetheless. Let's take that full screen in so that I can see where it is and read the sign. Okay, this looks like this is Atlanta Road at Paces Ferry Road. You can see the rain coming down so good there. It's just, once again, look at this. I always look at, so the art of hydroplaning, right? JD, correct me if I'm wrong, because I believe it's what? 1/10 of an inch of water on the road? Yeah, it doesn't take much water on the road to move a car. And you're driving through this mess. The folks on the left-hand side of the screen, they understood the assignment. It's the people on the right side of the screen that I'm looking at with a side eye. A tenth of an inch, correct. If you're going 35 miles per hour, if it's a tenth of an inch on the road, that can make your car hydroplane. I'm not a speedometer or odometer. I'm not an odometer. I can't measure how fast those cars are going, but my eyes, speedometer. Odometer tells you how many miles. Yeah. Bam. I'm not a speedometer, but the folks on the right-hand side, those are the folks that are going more than 35 miles per hour. And they're turning left, too. And they're just going. And I don't see any brake lights. I don't see any slowing down. Listen, I'm not here to judge, but I'm judging. What is it? We listen and we don't judge. I'm not listening. I'm watching, and I'm also judging because folks on the left-hand side of the screen, they're doing what they need to do, driving a little slow, taking it easy. You know, we just want to get home. We're not in no rush. Dudes on the right-hand side, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to point because I'm just talking. But people on the right side, oh, and now they're turning their flashers on. I'm trying to make it make sense. But listen. Huh? Is it? Okay, that's fine. They tell me that it's illegal for you to drive with your flashers on. So yeah, you shouldn't be doing that. How about just slow down and you don't need the flashers? But you know what? Let's go. Let's dive more into these storms, guys. The takeaway from that conversation was slow down a little bit. I'd rather get home at 9 o'clock in one piece with my vehicle not dented, dry and not wet from having to get out of the car to talk to a cop, or unfortunately, potentially not make it home, all because I wanted to get home 10 minutes faster. Take it slow. Your house ain't going nowhere. The restaurants are still open. Towers is still open. Or wherever you get your adult beverages from. They're not closing till 11 o'clock. So you're good. Slow down a little bit. You'll be fine. But let's reset. Let's level set. I know some folks are just joining the stream. If you are just joining the stream, why are we here? Why are we talking? Why are we chatting? Things were a whole lot more active than they are now. If you were with us at 5:30, I mentioned on TV, these severe thunderstorm warnings were popping like popcorn because they just kept firing up across our area. Right now, we have one active severe thunderstorm warning, and that is for portions of Clayton County, portions of Fulton County, and into Fayette County. This warning is set to expire at 8:15. That is 2 minutes away. But in addition to this, we do have three very large severe flash flood warnings that are in effect for folks that are in Cherokee County, Forsyth County, Hall County, stretching into Bartow County, portions of Northeast Paulding County, Cobb County, Fulton County, DeKalb County, Gwinnett County, down into portions of northern Clayton County, and I think we named them all. So we're dealing with these flash flood warnings until about 10:45. Number one, rain is still actively falling, and it's falling at a crazy rate. But there comes runoff. The water has to go somewhere. The ditches, the creeks, those streets. Listen, there's one right here down the station. I think it's 14th Street. What is that, Techwood? Where it always floods? Yeah, every time it rains. Yeah, right there by the CarMax. It's Techwood. Listen, those areas, there's water there because there always is. Piedmont Road near the intersection of Cheshire Bridge where you go under, there's always water there anytime it rains. Slow down.
But we never
or avoid the street. Jennifer, I hear you, by the way, FYI. Jen, you heard me?
I didn't see it.
Jen. No, hot mic is what I was saying. Her mic is hot. Just FYI. Yeah, you good. But yeah, so these storms are pushing through the area, and we have one active severe thunderstorm warning and about 9 or 10 counties that are at least currently under a flash flood warning, and you're going to stay there at least for a few more hours. Even though, especially in the northern part of our viewing area, out Forsyth Hall, the rain has significantly decreased. You guys got saturated last night, and this water is still running off. So I'd still take it a little easy out there. Let's go back to Truist. I'm from the South, from Louisiana. The rain is soothing to me, and I like that shot of Truist Park. But you can see where we are. Here's Truist Park right now on the First Alert radar. Let's go here. And believe it or not, The heaviest rain is just to the west of Truist Park, but whenever you get that shot of Truist, just go ahead and take it full. You got some heavier downpours to the west, stretching into Smyrna, near Atlanta Country Club. You got some heavy downpours, and you can even see the lightning off in the distance. And I believe from the Truist camera, some of the lightning that you're still seeing is some of this lightning that's off in the distance to the north and west. So definitely a better shot. We can go full screen with that. Definitely not looking as rainy, and First Alert radar is indicating that it's lighter showers in that region. But unfortunately, those lightning flashes that you see, that is going to hold up the game. Because while they can play in the rain, just like I was telling you earlier, lightning is dangerous, and don't go stand under a tree or don't go into an open field. Truist Park is an open field, and lightning looks for the quickest way to the ground. And if you're standing out on an open field, you, my friend, are what we call a conductor. You are the quickest way to the ground. So that's why the game is on delay. Don't quote me, but I believe they actually have to wait 30 minutes after the last lightning strike to actually get on the field and play. And I'm getting confirmation that I'm correct. I'm 2 for 2 tonight with the guesses, but yeah, so we'll have to wait 30 minutes after the last lightning strike before that game can pick up. But have no fear. The First Alert weather team is here, and we will air that game on Atlanta News First as soon as that game gets going. And based off of the fact that we're probably an hour late, that probably means that our 11 o'clock newscast will be a little late. But you're going to be there anyway watching the game, so just stay tuned. And as soon as the game goes off, I think we'll go live from the Chop, at the Chop. And then after we do that, the 11 o'clock newscast will probably start immediately afterwards. So a lot going on here. We're going to continue to track these storms. Once again, we have lost our severe thunderstorm warning, and we only at this moment have flash flood warnings. Now, we're going to wrap up this stream in a couple of minutes, but the threat is not over, right? It's still going to continue to rain heavily for the next couple of hours. These storms are moving 0 to 10 miles per hour, depending on where you are, but the fastest storm is moving 10 miles per hour. Think about you driving from here to LaGrange, but you can only go 10 miles per hour. How long is it going to take you to get there, right? Let's push it out of our viewing area altogether, because LaGrange is our viewing area. Let's say you were driving to Columbus, Georgia. How long is it going to take you to get to Columbus driving 10 miles per hour? A while. So these storms are going to be with us for a while. We can hope and pray that they continue to rain themselves out. We've seen at least the wind element of them come down. That's not to say that the winds aren't still breezy, because they are. 30, 40, 45, and near 50 miles per hour winds still possible in these storms. And because those winds are gusting, they're elevated winds, and the grounds are being saturated, if you have a dead tree nearby, that dead tree could become vulnerable. These are the type of winds that it takes to knock down a dead tree. Now, a fully healthy big tree probably needs a little bit more, unless the ground is just, you get 4 inches of rain. At that point, any tree can come down. But other than that, we're going to be really concerned about dead trees coming down, small trees coming down, or trees that are, in a lot of water. We will continue to dive into these storms. We'll track these storms. If another risk arises, or if the threat of an issue starts to elevate, we will come to you on this platform. I believe we have, there we go. The best way to stay weather aware. This is my best friend, y'all, and I've already told you that I'm going to be in the streets this weekend, and I told you tomorrow's the First Alert weather day, and there's some rain and some storms around on Sunday too. But because I have this First Alert weather app in my pocket, I can literally be notified when lightning is in my vicinity, 11, 12, 15, 7 miles away. I can get up from the pool, dry myself off, grab my sweet tea or whatever I'm drinking, move inside until the storm is past, and then I can go back out once they're gone. Download this app in the App Store, the Google Store. All you have to do is scan this QR code, and you can be in the know. And on top of getting all of those notifications I just told you about, we are the largest team of meteorologists in the Southeast, and we update that app a ridiculously large number of times a day. So that you should never, ever be caught off guard by weather, because we'll be the first to tell you about it. Y'all have a good night. We'll be back if we need to be.